But yeah, hi guys, welcome to Strings and Locks. It's been a while. Life has been lifing. A lot has been happening. You know how you are thinking to yourself, when I get married, I'm gonna do this content, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then you realize that being married is a full-time job, and you are always tired. Pastor Nikki, are you always tired?
God gives me the grace and the strength.
Yeah, Moyo, you're always tired.
I wake up tired.
Do you know that's literally like how I feel like adulthood is? You're trying to catch sleep to feel better, but you wake up tired.
I wake up
You're
tired.
like, can I ever get enough sleep rather? But yeah, guys, here I have Pastor Nikki, a friend. I have Moyo too, a friend.
Yes.
And we want to have a very interesting conversation about marriage, as a British woman or as people who were raised here. And just how can we navigate that whole conversation of marriage from British women's perspective, especially because these days we hear a lot of stories, this divorce, this separation. And, last week I was even in a space on X and men were talking about how, when you bring women to England, their eyes will tear, they'll start reporting people to the police and stuff like that. And I feel like it's the UK-based abroad marriages that have the worst PR. It's like UK women, UK men, they're always fighting, they're always having issues. The US people, you don't really hear them on social media going around. The Canada people, you don't really hear them talking so much. They say that it's the UK people that have podcast mic. I guess, but that's why we're here. But yeah, Pastor Nikki, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and then, and then before we go to Moyo?
Okay, hi, I'm Nikki Okadele. I'm a pastor, woman of God. I'm a nurse by background. I have 4 children. I've been married nearly 15 years. To the glory of God, it'll be 15 years in January. But we've been together over 18 years. What more would you like to know?
I think that's fine. Moyo.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so my name is Moyo. I'm basically, how do I say it? Let me start again, cut this out. But I'm Moyo. I'm a mum of 3. I'm currently in the process of a divorce. And what else do you want to know as well? I am out online sharing about my story of how I married a Christian narcissist. And the story is still unfolding of what God is doing in my life. So
Wow.
It's a bit about me.
Wow. I think that will be this is a very nice mixture, seeing from a woman who's going through the process of divorce and seeing from a woman who's married, and both British women, of course, of Nigerian heritage, both Yoruba too. So we're able to see how it differs, in their perspective, if there is even any difference in perspective, to be fair. But what do you guys think about being married as a British woman? Do you think that it's different from what they say it is when you get married as a British woman? Because obviously there is also that aspect of, be mindful of who you marry. They are coming for papers. Like this. What do you guys think about marriage from a British woman's perspective? Are you seeing it as 50-50? I do my 50, he does his 50, and also Christian women, right? Or are you seeing it from an angle of, I'm going to be traditional? What do you think? Pastor Nikki.
Okay, I think first and foremost, it depends on who you are marrying, the culture you're marrying into, what their expectations are, and how they see marriage. Okay, I say that because actually if I'm British and I marry, say, for example, an English British man, potentially he may not have any issues with, halving things with me, or actually me paying all of the bills. He may want to be a stay-home dad, and he may be very comfortable with me being very vocal and being opinionative, and we may not have any issues. He may love that about me. But if I'm married to a Nigerian heritage man, or a man who grew in Nigeria, relocated, he may struggle with my ability to express myself, to voice my needs, to be unfiltered at times, to say things that he may deem as me being derogatory towards his masculinity. He may, he may want to be a provider and pay all the bills, or he may want to go halves with me. So it really depends on the person. If you're saying this from a context of a Nigerian man, I think there are huge differences. And I provide a lot of mentoring for British women who are married to Nigerian men, because actually there are lots of things we have to unlearn. And we have to now relearn to ensure that we get on, we understand each other, and we're speaking the same language.
That's a lot to unpack. Moyo, what do you think?
So I think similarly to Pastor Nikki, it is really about, you know, who you're marrying. But I think marriage should still be at the same concept of, you know, being British. I don't think that should be the focus of what you bring to marriage. But I think when you are British, there are definitely differences in how you might be with another culture. But yeah, in terms of do we see things like 50-50, I think that's a conversation that every couple should have. Like, what do you guys want? So I think it's quite a lot to unpack with that question.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that being British, there's a different mentality. And I think maybe from my experience of being married to a typical Nigerian man, I think there was a lot of differences in how we see things and the culture. And if one doesn't have an understanding, and if there isn't like a, you know, agreement between the two, then that's going to cause a lot of issues. But I think putting that aside, if people come with the right mindset to marriage, regardless of you being British or Nigerian, that shouldn't have an issue, you know.
That's a very
Can
good...
I come on?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I love the scripture. It says, can two work together except they agree?
Yeah.
And Mo's really right. Actually, there's something called kingdom culture, you know, biblical culture, regardless of where you're from. You know, you've got to honour your husband. Husband is supposed to love his wife. And actually, when the two can do that, all of the kind of micro details that we've kind of started with, those come after that. But that initial expectation, biblical principles should be there. So yeah.
Absolutely. She said something that was very on point. You said you don't think that marriage has anything to do with being British. And that's very important to unpack, because a lot of times I feel like, obviously, we live in a society that's very egalitarian right now. You know, everyone is fighting for equality, for their rights. And as much as I'm really against the oppression of women, at the same time, it's like the fight against the oppression of women is pushing women to a place where women feel like husbands and wives are the same in marriage. Does that make sense? Especially here in the Western world, where they're very pro, you know, women, very pro. In fact, women rank higher than men on the ladder. Is that true? Do you guys agree with me?
It was never like that.
But do you guys agree that that's the reality now?
That is, yes.
It's the
So
gender
literally
that's being
is
pushed
the
at the
white
moment.
guy first,
Oh, yes.
the white woman second,
Yeah.
they say the black guy first, to be fair, and then they say the black woman. But sometimes I feel like it's the black woman first
I agree. It's the black woman first.
before the black guy.
And I think even the dog and the cat before the black
Yeah,
guy.
I was just talking about the
the black
human
guy's
category
last,
though.
isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. No,
But the dog and the cat's actually taken as a human. Unfortunately.
In which society?
I think so.
No, I know.
Unfortunately.
yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. But let's talk about and I like what you said. So the way I like to think about culture is that culture is just a peculiar way of life to different people. And you know, growing up as a Nigerian in Nigeria, it seemed like every other culture was better than our culture. You know, that sense of I don't know if it's a colonial mindset where you feel like, well, British culture or Western culture is better. Anything they do is better. Do you think that the Western culture of marriage is better than the African culture of marriage? What do you think?
I think there are advantages to both, and there are also disadvantages to both, and it's about looking at what works. So, for example, the African culture, some men, you know, like to dominate. And if we go back to our fathers and their fathers, there was this thing of I am the man, I am the hierarchy, and you do what I say. Your opinion isn't needed here. This is what we do and we move. Whereas I don't necessarily agree with that, because actually there is something the woman brings to the table, be it how we raise the kids, be it how we spend the money, be it, you know, what have you. And actually the British culture or the Western culture sometimes discipline is an issue, how we discipline the children, for example. The role of the man, the role of the woman. So I think it depends on which angle that we're coming from, but definitely both sides has its advantages and disadvantages is what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a tough question about which one, is it better? Is the Western better? I think because I'm British, I would probably think that the British mentality to some extent is better. That's been a bit vague because there's, like you said, there's differences, but I think there's more pros.
Pastor Nikki does not agree.
I want to, in as much as, not that
I'm struggling to answer that question.
But as you were talking, you caused me to personalise that question. And in my marriage, we behave predominantly
British
with the African.
Oh,
no. Yeah. What's made my marriage last?
It's the African mentality.
It's the African mentality, yeah.
But which part? I think you might need to break it down.
Okay, tell us.
I mean, it's 14 years plus. So maybe the first 5 years, it was very much British because that's who I am and that's what I know. But it wasn't really getting me very far. I felt like I wasn't getting closer to my husband. Rather, so the love we had for each other when we were dating, it's supposed to grow when you marry. But I think maybe because of how I responded to things, my behaviour, my stand on things, was causing a little bit of a distance. I had to now start unlearning all of my most of my British behaviour and mentality just in the context of the marriage. And I adopted the Nigerian one, or the African one, or the more scriptural one that tells you to honour your husband, you know?
Okay, so
I think...
Go on.
When I say better, I'm talking about the part where there's open communication, which I think is more of a British thing. Whereas I think a Nigerian practice, I think it depends on what do we really mean by when we say what is British culture and because if we really break it down, I was looking at the part of communication.
And I agree.
That's the part I was referring to. And I think communication maybe in the Nigerian setting, a lot of things can be silenced or not spoken about. And I think in the context of marriage, that can cause an issue. So I think it depends on what we are actually referring to. But I get what you're saying, but I just think my mindset was it being better because British people, I think, I don't know how to describe it.
Do they even communicate well, though?
British people?
Yeah.
They do.
Passively?
They communicate about everything.
Passive.
So they plan everything together. They discuss things. They bring things to the table. Like, for example, it's the beginning of the financial year. This is the holidays we're going to book annual leave from work. This is how we're going to spend this summer. We book holidays in advance. So there is a discussion there within the home.
And even how you have that discussion. Let's sit down. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about... And I'm saying, bringing it obviously in your own style, but that communication is something... that I think I've adopted as a British, not necessarily. I guess I didn't grow up in Nigeria. And I do find that with Nigerians, a lot of things are unspoken and just out of actions, you're kind of expecting to understand what that might mean. I don't know. I think it's quite a difficult question.
On the back of what Mo has just said, part of my unlearning and the example of what you've said. So in a scenario like that, I'm kind of in a position where it's like, okay, that's what you want. Oh, no problem. Let's run with it. Whereas before, if I disagreed with maybe a plan, it would be a thing of, well, I don't agree with that. Why should we do it that way? Why should we this and why should we that? Questioning everything in a kind of challenging manner. Whereas now it would be like, well, okay, we could, I would make another suggestion, but at the end of the day, baby, it's fine. Whatever you think is best. And I run with it. If it works, brilliant.
So
if it doesn't...
Do you guys think that it's more difficult to be a submissive wife as a British woman?
100%. For me.
See, what I was just about to say was, if you do not have Christ in this British or Nigerian, there's a problem. So I think the only reason why you will now adopt to the certain ways you need to be is when you now follow the principles of the Bible. Because maybe as a British, you might have a bit more sassiness, cockiness, and maybe the submission part might be more difficult to attain.
And do you know why I think that is, Mo?
I mean, you answered that question very diplomatically. She said yes, so
because you could be a British Christian.
So we were talking
but it
about...
still makes it difficult because in school we're brought up to look at the teacher in the eye because that shows that you're confident. We're brought up to have debates and challenge things.
You don't do that with your Yoruba auntie, though.
Question things.
She's like,
do you know
I'm gonna call a family meeting for you. Like, why are you looking at my eyes? That's so disrespectful.
Do you know what I mean? And these are the things I've had to kind of, I had to learn that even when I'm communicating with my husband, I can look at him in the eye, but knowing that I give my opinion and I give my bit, my contribution, but actually he makes the decision also with my involvement.
Yeah.
But he's the head of the family, and I should be comfortable with him being the head, and which is why you don't marry a man you don't feel that you can submit to. A man that you don't trust his leadership, you don't trust his vision, don't marry him, because you will have to potentially
submit. You have to.
And I know people don't like that word, but you have to.
Yeah.
If you want peace.
So I think you guys are agreeing that the British is more difficult for a British woman to submit.
I think so, but then I find it difficult because I think I'm just still holding on to, am I just totally British? I'm not.
No, we're not,
It's all other factors that make you.
No, I get what you're
And so
saying.
I'm struggling to just disconnect just being British to what I already know as my values as a Christian.
No, I
and
get,
to answer that question.
No, I get what you're saying, but we're saying in a very typical sense, right? So
But even my values as a Christian, when I go to meet with God, I express myself to God. I pour myself out to God. He's my father. But can I express to my husband the way I would express to God? You know, I can be me and just be me, and God gets me. But my husband may not understand that. I will have to use a different type of toolkit, if you like, just so he gets where I'm coming from without him misinterpreting or misunderstanding the conception there.
Yeah, because I just had to ask, because obviously there is the part that a lot of Nigerian men who marry British women carry a lot of that domineering, attitude, right? But there is also the angle that a lot of British women are also very difficult to handle because, they are coming into marriage with a very egalitarian idea. Equality. When you say one, I say one. When you say two, I say two.
That was me.
If you push me, I push you.
That was me.
I have my rights. Like, who do you think? You think you're just gonna come into this marriage? After all, you met me, I was working. I had my own thing. Stuff like that. So, I think that is what I'm also trying to look at from that angle. Like, if you were to talk to women who are raised outside Nigeria, if you were going to speak to women who were raised in the UK, in England, in in the US, in Canada, what will you tell them about how to manage being raised in a very liberal society and being Christian and bringing out the best femininity that they could ever?
You gonna start? That's loaded.
So what would I be advising women from the Western world?
Yeah, black women.
In terms of them being in a relationship with a Nigerian man?
Let's stop making it about Nigerian men.
Okay.
Because it's not only Nigerian men that are like that, to be fair.
Okay.
I feel like it's a standard that men have to be leaders.
Yes.
Even in a lot of British families,
advise?
they still are like the head of their families, but
And
obviously not in the way Nigerian or African men can be, right? But they still are, they still operate that, complementarian style. The man is the head, the woman follows. Obviously, it doesn't make her less. They work together as a team.
But some Western men don't have an issue with that. So I think it's hard for me personally, it's hard to say. I think as a woman, a Christian woman, you're supposed to respect your husband. Okay? You're supposed to allow him to lead the home. And respecting your husband means that you don't talk back. You can disagree in a polite way. You don't always have to agree, but it's how you communicate, being patient, apologizing, ability to allow him to make certain decisions, and the list goes on. But I really do feel that our culture plays a huge role. For example, dressing.
Mm-hmm.
When my husband and I got married, I used to dress a certain way and he loved it. He had no issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when his mum would come around, she did have issues with it. And I think if I was married to somebody that, I don't know, somebody else and their mother wasn't from that type of mindset, I guess maybe let's remove where they're from now, they may not have an issue with it. It may have been okay.
But do you think that has helped you, though?
Oh, definitely. I think at the time, I wasn't ready for that change, and nobody was going to make me transit into something that I wasn't.
And you know how our aunties can be. They are very straightforward.
Exactly.
They are not,
and it was like that. My husband defended me, and he was like, this is my wife. I like the way she dresses. and that was fine. But I can imagine another man may not have responded that way. So it's expectations.
Yeah. What do you think?
That question is
I
good.
feel like you need to break it down.
Let me answer.
Go on.
What I'm thinking, because all I could remember was, what would you advise British women or people that, now that you've learnt a lot? I feel like what I've learnt. So for me, I think it's about, I think in advice would be, which is part of what I'm already doing with what I'm sharing my story online, is marry someone that you can relate with. Marry somebody that you are best friends with, because I think when you now marry someone that you can understand each other, all this, because the hierarchy and everything is already there by default, and it'll be easier for you to be able to just follow that. If it's Christianity you're following, you easily follow it. But where you're not marrying somebody that's my advice to younger women. Like, make sure you look out for certain signs that will make you know that you can't really submit to this person, because your job is to submit. And if you're seeing that this person is like not even going to give you the opportunity to be you, then you're going to struggle to submit, but your job is to submit. So look out for what you're getting yourself involved in, and make sure that you really marry your friend, and then submission will be easy. Respecting your husband will be easy. So I don't know. The question is very hard though.
I told you. I struggled with it. You need to break it down so we can really give you the answer that you want.
Let me break it down.
You did well.
Let me break it down.
Delete my one. No, because I'm not sure I answered your question well.
I think you did. I think you did.
You did.
No, I think you actually did.
Okay.
So let me break it down a bit. Sometimes when we have conversations about gender roles in marriage, a woman should cook, a man will work and blah 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 and stuff like that. A man does the harder labor at home. For example, if you came here and you saw my wife washing our car, in your head you're just like, this man is not a responsible man. Well, that's the way I'm going to think if I went to someone's house and his wife is washing their car.
What if she enjoys washing the car?
There is no reason why a woman should enjoy washing a car.
Exactly. It's true. If a wife is washing the car, something tells me there's an issue.
See, let me tell you.
Maybe it's the British mindset kicking in me right now. I don't agree.
Let me put it like this: women are able to survive, but women were not meant to survive like that.
That's right.
So when she's relied on a man to wash the car, the guy's not washing the car, she's going to wash the car.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never washed a car in my life. I could take it to the car wash.
Exactly. Or
but if I fancy doing it and you came to my home and you made an assumption based on that.
I mean, I'm not going to conclude, but that's where my bias is going to lie.
Fair
enough. Obviously, until I have a conversation with you, I'm not going to be conclusive about what I think. But now, bringing it down, in Africa, a lot of African men are very obsessed with, my wife taking care, nurturing, cooking, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of like British people or women are also like, why do you want us to do that? Work is very demanding here, blah, 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 blah. Do you cook for your husband?
100%.
From the beginning of the marriage, or initially you were like,
No, I love my husband even before we got married.
That's such a very good way to start that thing.
Yeah.
And because I love him and he loves me back, and I don't have to question his love for me because I know that he will go to the ends of the earth for me. So when you have that security as a woman that a man loves you with, can't say all of his heart, but most of his heart, you won't feel a way going far and beyond for him.
Yeah.
So if you want me to cook for you, I will cook for you. If you want me, I know some men don't eat microwavable food and whatever. If that was the type of man I had, I will do my best to try and, to the best of my ability, to just give him what he wants, to make him happy. Because why? He does the same for me. Miles Morone says that it's what you give a woman that she multiplies and gives back to you. Yeah. So if you give your woman unconditional love, you give her security and she trusts you, you will get the best out of that woman.
That's right.
Because she always wants to please you.
Yeah. Yeah, Moyo, what in your past marriage, did you?
I did, yeah. I typically believe that it's not like it should be the woman only in the kitchen, but I do believe that the woman naturally is able to do that role. And I believe that partly part of being a wife is to, you know, like you said, please your husband in that area, which is cooking food. They even have, there's a saying that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So I definitely was cooking, and I think I mentioned it the other day that now that, you know, when one is in the situation I'm in now, you know, separated, divorced, I personally don't even have the motivation to cook all these nice foods that you would normally want to cook when you have a man. So cooking, I think, is definitely something that is natural to a woman, and a good woman should normally want to cook for her husband.
Period. That's one win for the brotherhood. One win for the brotherhood.
I have to add to that if your husband loves you, he shouldn't want to see you suffering. He shouldn't want to see. So he should feel okay cooking as well.
That's why I said it's not predominantly a woman's job.
I was going to bring the balance, because it's very possible to take one edge of something that has been said and then you twist it to so much extremism. Yeah, of course, you know, I think it's even easy to do certain things when you know that your husband will do, even if you were not doing, or that he would make an effort, you know. So it's not something that it's like, oh, if my wife was upstairs and she's sleeping and then I'm downstairs, I'm like, come and make me food, when there is literally food there, I just have to microwave it. Do you see what I'm saying? It has to be, I feel like the rules are still guided with compassion, or by compassion. So even if there are rules, they are not meant to be hard in a way that, you know, we forget that we love ourselves. So there are rules and there are rules, but we love ourselves, and love, I believe, compels us to do everything we can to make it work. Right. But yeah, I think the reason I asked that question is because a lot of times, like, I've had complaints even from, you know, or arguments online, you know, people are like, oh, you think I'm going to cook? I mean, these are like working class women speaking here. You know, you have a job, she has a job, and you people look like you guys are making good peas, you know, so you guys are doing well. It's not like, do you get what I'm saying? So it's possible to thrive even in femininity, in the ability to like nurture your home, even as a working class woman.
Absolutely.
You know, obviously, it's fine if a woman wants to be a stay-at-home mom, but it doesn't have to be stay-at-home mom or the other one.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Can I come in?
Yeah, you want to say something?
You know, you could be thriving in your career, you could be making all the money in the world, you could have all the authority at work, but the moment I get into my house, I am Shola's wife. And that means that forget boss lady, forget madame, I am my husband's wife, and I'm there to cater to his needs. So one thing I always say to women is that you've got to learn the art of negotiating and compromising. The example you guys made earlier around, you know, you said it, sorry, that you go to the kitchen, the guy can just get his food. You know, you won't call and say, oh, come from upstairs and give me my food. But for me, if my husband likes to be served, I will come from downstairs and give him his food.
Beautiful.
So far, he's a man that does his thing as a man, takes care of his home. I'm willing to compromise and do certain things that I may feel like it's really unnecessary. Like,
well, some people might feel like it's unnecessary.
But actually you do so many other things that are amazing, and if that's what you want, for me to just, you know, kind of rub your ego a little bit, I'm okay to do that. That's not an issue. But you find that women here today don't want to do that.
Yeah, because, you know, there was this story that trended online. A woman who wakes up by 5 a.m. to cook for her husband before he leaves to work. And she was so trolled. She was so bullied. They were like, you know, how you going to do that for a man? Blah, 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 blah. You know, like, you're just soft. And she was pregnant. And by the way, it wasn't the husband that was compelling her. She got a lot of favor online. A lot of people like gave maybe over 50 million naira or thereabout. Like, people gave money because, you know, all this like online feminists, they were saying, oh, like, how you gonna do that for a man? He doesn't rate you, he doesn't love you.
How did they know that?
And that's the thing, because you just said something. So if I come to your house and your husband is downstairs and you are upstairs, and then your husband calls you to be like, honey, can you come and serve me food? I shouldn't be thinking that you're suffering, because you could love that. Maybe you love serving your husband. Bless you. Maybe you love, serving your husband that way. Maybe it gives you joy, because I feel like now with a lot of women, you know, women's rights organizations and all of that, service in marriage has been I don't know what the word is, antagonized. Whereas like if you are serving your husband, then you are suffering.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Can I come in there as well? And
Yeah.
I think the problem is, I mean, I think regardless of how your man is treating you, your job is to submit, your job is to do the right thing, but then it becomes more difficult, which is why you should try and get it right in the beginning. Because even like the way you said, okay, honey, can you come down? Some men don't know how to even talk to their wives. They would have that expectation, so derogatory way of speaking to that woman. And so the woman is now, you know, sort of doing it out of obligation
Subjection.
rather than
Out of
service.
love.
Yes. And then what then starts to happen is resentment starts to build and anger and, you know, bitterness starts to build. And then, you know, all of a sudden a woman can just switch and it's not making it right. But I think a lot of these women that might be, I'm not trying to speak for them, but they might not be dealing with a man that's actually making that woman feel safe. And that's why the whole culture of serving a man is starting to go out of the window, because maybe the men are just not, unfortunately, able to put the woman in a safe space.
I agree with what you're saying.
You know?
I think that's a perspective to it. But also, as much as I love the perspective of creating safe spaces for one another in marriage, I also think that message can be taken and twisted as, you know, in a way that people forget to take responsibility for themselves.
Absolutely.
So for example, I should lead my wife whether she submits or not.
Yeah.
My wife should submit to me whether I lead well or not. I think that when it gets to the point where you're now like, you know, I'm not going to cook for you, because that is the beginning of disintegration. Everything
Agreed.
begins to go down, because marriage is not, it's not about you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very difficult though.
That's why I was saying, initially I said it shouldn't be about that. But when you're dealing with a woman, women are emotionally driven. And so as much as you're saying it shouldn't be, the reality is the woman's going to change. Women are inevitably going to change regardless.
Yeah, because a lot of times when we have these conversations, I think that it's a very established fact that we have some very bad men who are very tyrannical. They are very authoritarian. They are just very brash in the way they talk to their wives, very disrespectful.
But the woman would have noticed that when she was dating him, right?
So are we saying that when you're dealing with that now, the woman should still find it very... Because I get what you're saying, but I think in those circumstances...
If I'm dating you,
I mean, I did it, but it's a struggle.
no, what I'm saying is, if I was dating you and I picked up on all of those things, I will take my shoes off and run.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
I'm not going to stay.
Yeah.
Because clearly we're not going to be compatible.
And that's why I said from the beginning, know who you're going into marriage with.
Yeah, but I feel like we've established that men can be very nasty sometimes.
Yeah.
How about women though?
Oh, yes.
Aren't there women who, it's not about having a safe space, they just don't want to do stuff, they just feel like, well, I can get away with it. They are just taking advantage of a very kind guy. You know, what do you think? And you know, the reason I'm bringing this conversation also to this angle is I find it that there are lots of conversations around what women are facing, which is fine, because women are facing a lot, to be fair. But it's almost like we don't also talk about what men face. The fact that sometimes, you know, maybe the wife doesn't want to cook, it's not because he's not doing what he's meant to do. You know, a man could be doing everything, being kind to the woman, and she just isn't, you know, bulging. She just isn't trying to do the best as a woman. What would you say in situations like that?
I think, you know, when you become a Christian, you know, the Bible talks about all things passing away and all things becoming new. And the Bible also, you know, commends us to die daily to flesh. I think the moment as a woman, as a lady, you want to go into marriage and you're about to start that journey, literally old things have to pass away, because the new you needs to emerge. And that means that you put aside some of your characters, you know, because you've got to really discover who you are. And I think even in marriage, women, we evolve and we change all the time. And it's understanding who you are, the things that trigger you, the things that you don't like. You've got to work on it. Yeah. Because actually, the person that you're with has to be able to accommodate this person that you are. Yeah. And if you go in with all of that energy and all of that vibe and, you know, woman power and you're not going to tell me this and you're not... you won't enjoy your marriage. Peace is so important in a marriage, in a home. And how do you establish that? How do you achieve that as a woman? You know, one of the things I had to unlearn was to stop replying. I had a reply for everything. My goodness, my mouth is still a bit, Jehovah is still helping me in terms of just me as a person. But I'm not like this in my marriage because I've mastered it in my marriage, you know? And people will say the only person Nikki will listen and obey after God is her husband. I respect that man so much, not because he demanded it, but because he's loved me and nurtured me so well. He deserves my free will, respect and honor. Okay, so back to when I was saying about replying, when he's talking and he's saying things, I just keep quiet, because if I speak, I will make the situation worse. I will aggravate him and we won't result in peace. So I keep quiet and I internalize my response. So if I want to say a few words, I say it in my heart. I know that's a sin because the Bible says what you say in your heart can be used against you. But the point is, I don't say it out so I don't upset, because there are times you're really angry, like you're livid.
You just want.
I don't say anything.
The next reply that's going to get to them.
I don't say anything. I keep quiet. I don't give bad looks either. I keep a straight face. You know, I keep just a straight face. When he's done, when he's this and he's that, once he's calmed down. Oh, and I apologise. Babe, I'm sorry. Whether I mean it or not. Babe, it's true. That's what I peace. Whether I mean it or not. Babe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I upset you to that level. That's not the moment for me to say, but you did this and but you triggered me and but. I want peace. That's not what he needs to hear right there. Yeah. So once everything has died down at night, in a nice outfit, you know, and I say, babe, you really upset me earlier. This happened, that happened. You saw it from this angle, but this is how I saw it. And, you know, a bit of water works, you know, because maybe I'm feeling emotional. Because actually I didn't get to vent in that moment. I felt like you robbed me of my anger. You know, like you robbed me of expressing my anger. So I will say it. And you know what he'll say, babe, I didn't say it that way, but you really, this is what you did. And then we talk about it. And then I apologise again, and then he apologises. And, you know, I started doing that. And before I knew it, my husband started apologising for everything. To the point now, it'd be like, I'm sorry, but babe, why are you sorry? I don't know. I'm just sorry. That's what he will say. I'm like, no, I don't want you to just be sorry for the sake of being sorry. Let's talk. So it's what you do as a woman as well that the man mirrors and vice versa. Look, the aim is peace. As a woman, if you say to yourself, I want peace, but don't abuse me in the process of me trying to give you peace. Respect me and love me in the process of me trying to give you peace. Because if not, you won't get the peace. You'll get war. But if the guy is trying, you've got to meet him in the middle. You know.
That was a lot. And yes, I love that. For me, I think the question was around women, men to suffer, or I think about what we were talking about, because what I was thinking about was that yes, women can have everything, have a good man like what you have, and still misuse that man or not treat that man with the respect he deserves or submit to that man. And I think what you've just explained was growth, is, you know, the walk with God. And I think those are the factors that have helped you. However, there are some women that are just terrible, unfortunately, and there's nothing you can do. And I think this is where I now start talking about, I'm not saying everyone is a narcissist, but I'm bringing about the idea of what this actual mental health condition looks like, because it's quite rampant and a lot of people have this. And where you said that you want peace, I was in experiences where all I wanted was peace. So I would try my best to please and do all the things you've just explained, but it never got me anywhere.
I think the difference is that you can do the right thing for the wrong person.
That's it.
But it doesn't stop the right thing from being the right thing.
Agreed.
Because sometimes, you know, people now act out of trauma and they're like, well, I've been in this situation and I tried to get peace and it didn't work. In my next situation, maybe I was a fool in the last one. No, you were not a fool.
No, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So, yeah, because we need to be very careful how we have these conversations, because literally we are shaping generations in the way, especially with family, right? So it's very important for people to know that what we do is like what we do when we are in love does not mean that we're stupid.
Yeah.
What also contributes to that thing is who you're doing it for.
Yeah.
Because there are men who don't want peace. Sadly.
Yeah.
But all of this is explored when you're dating. Like I would say to you, Mo, when you were dating your husband, you knew what he was like. She changed dramatically before she even married him. She conformed herself into what he wanted her to be. So you already knew you were with somebody controlling. You already knew you were with somebody that wanted to change you. You already knew that the way you were was not good enough for this person.
Yeah, but then it's where manipulation got involved, that I thought that was required of me.
So there's a thin line in what you're saying.
You know, I thought that was me drawing closer to God, following what God wanted, because that was how it was used to make me believe that what I was doing was right. So,
I think we'll start wrapping up because it's just almost an hour, I think.
Oh, wow.
But I'm just going to give us want to say like your parting words, maybe 2 points, 3 points from your marriage that you've learned so far for both men and women, and you also from your process, like obviously your past marriage and then, you know, the whole evolution to like, you know, your separation process, the things that you've learned. Because I believe that every experience leaves us with a lesson if we decide to learn. Because there are people who don't decide to learn. That, you know, so what do you guys have to say, Pastor Nikki?
Okay. Build a really close relationship with God, because I report my husband to God. So if I need my husband to do something, I go to God first, and I would say, God, you created this man. This is what I want. This is what I need. I need you to go and speak to him concerning this. So by the time I take it to him, God has already done the work most of the time, and then it's easier for me to get what I want. So if women, rather than you arguing and fighting with your man verbally and just tugging, go to God. You know, he will really make it easier. That's one. Second thing is respect and honour. As I am right now, if my husband wants me to kneel down to serve him food, listen, that's what you want, baby. That's what you're going to get. If you want me to kneel, like, there is no pride. That was another thing. I think I was in marriage with pride and ego, and I felt like I was protecting something. I don't know what I thought I was protecting. Vulnerability. I didn't understand that I needed to be vulnerable in my marriage. So learning to be vulnerable with your husband, it's okay. Like I'm talking to the women now, he's the person that's supposed to see your absolute weakest points. And it's okay. You know, if he loves you, he would value it. It would bring you closer. There is no shame in marriage. If you're with somebody that makes you feel shame, then maybe there are issues there. That's the second point. I guess the third thing I've learned is to communicate, to talk. We can assume so many things in relationships, in marriages. Like, I had to teach him how to love me, how I liked to be loved. And although my husband didn't quite teach me how he likes to be loved, I had to ask questions and I had to pull things out of him, understanding what his love language, what is. Mine is money, words of affirmation, and all of that sort of stuff, you know? It's
She
true.
just slip money in there.
Oh my goodness. Whereas him, it's acts of service. My husband will come and do this and do that and do that and do that and do that, you know, and that's all he wants. And then he expects me to do that. I don't want to be doing and doing and doing. What am I doing? I beg, excuse me. Let me just buy you a gift and we're done. But he didn't want that, you know, so he would treat me with his own love language. I would treat him with my love language, and the two languages weren't understanding each other. So it's when I understood what he liked. So if I want to please him, I can rearrange his side of the wardrobe, you know, change this, but like he, you know, I would do what he understands. And I think it's really important that you understand what your man likes and teach him how to understand what you like.
Yeah.
It's important, because women, we get upset. I remember when I first started dating him, on my birthdays, I want you to get me like 20 cards and write loads of essays of how much you love me and appreciate me and all of that. He won't even buy me one card, and I would be upset.
What are your parting words?
Basically, I would just echo what Pastor Nikki has already said, which is get to know the Lord for yourself. You really, really need to know God for yourself. I basically feel like one of the mistakes I definitely made was trying to know God through somebody else, trying to know him based on somebody else's standard or based on somebody else's views or understanding of who this God is. So I think in the terms of marriage, it's really important to know God for yourself so that you can obviously be directed right. Just like the scripture says that, trust in the Lord with all your heart and acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your path. So that is so fundamental for you to know him for yourself so that he can direct you. Secondly, in the place of marriage, I really do believe that anyone looking to settle in marriage, they should really make sure that there's friendship. I feel like any marriage that is thriving today is as a result of the friendship. Friendship is the foundation in my understanding. I think love is definitely very important, but I do think over the years and time, the love exactly. But when you are friends, you understand yourself. So I think friendship is fundamental. Make sure you have friendship with that person. And then I think in terms of the lessons I've learned about who I am and in my current season is just overcoming that feeling of shame. I think in the situation I found myself in, there's a lot of stigma around it, and there's a lot of keep silent, just wallow your head in shame. And I think I've, by his grace, been able to overcome that feeling of shame and fear. And, that sadly does silence you and just, you just don't have a voice. But I think realizing that, nobody really cares. Like, everyone's living their life and they're going through life. So don't feel like you need to be crippled in anything because of what people would think. And just not allowing shame to be my story or to be, what I stand for. So that's basically that's what I would say in terms of.
I really, really like the way you express yourself, especially as a woman who's going through what you're going through right now, separation, divorce. Because there are people who that process make them really bitter to a point where everything that Pastor Nikki is talking about here, you'll be like, we don't serve a man. Men are wicked. Do you see what I'm saying? I think it takes a special grace to be able to come out of marriage and your heart is still... You still know that the things you did were not wrong. You probably just did it for the wrong person. Does that make sense? Yeah, but I've really, really learned a lot from both of you, even as a man, Seth. I'm learning a lot. I'm seeing that, as a man, the things that matter to women, are very different from the things that matter to us as men. And it's very important to understand that. And obviously vice versa and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you so much. Please, what's your handle?
Instagram, Pastor Nikki _.
Pastor Nikki is double K?
Yeah, PASTORNIKKI.
Yeah. Moyo, how about you?
And I'm officially Mo Space on Instagram as well as TikTok. And then I do have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Please do well to subscribe, like, follow on all your platforms. And see you again later. Bye.
See ya. Bye.